Hello guys, it's me Simo Urahara, and in this video I would like to talk about a funny topic which concerns Mayuri and Urahara in exactly one point. Why does Mayuri have inferiority complex towards Urahara? So that we will talk about this complex by searching for its beginning as well as its manifestations, and this is the important point in the subject of this video. But before proceeding to talk about this point, I would like to refer to the issue of one of the comparisons that I have been seeing recently, which is the comparison between Urahara and Mayuri in terms of who is the best in the field of science related to Bleach story. I said I have seen it recently because in the past I didn't see such comparisons at all. Did the new generation of Bleach fans the one who started this matter, or did Mayuri's complex towards Urahara was transferred to some of his fans, or it's been there for ages and I haven't seen it? Personally, I didn't see such discussions. Instead, the whole discussion centered on who is smart, Aizen or Urahara Kisuke, and so on, because in my personal belief, there is simply no such comparison between Mayuri and Urahara Kisuke. It's true they are both scientists, but the role Kubo gave to Mayuri is not the same as the role Kubo gave to Urahara Kisuke. Mayuri first and foremost is a lab guy. We don't know his past before present, but when Urahara got him out of the present and provided him with the right environment for work, you know the rest of the story. Urahara went to the real world and left the keys to the 12 Squad, the institute and development project he created, to Mayuri. And Urahara was frank with Mayuri. He told him, if I die, or in other words, if I'm no longer the manager, everything here will be yours. And therefore Mayuri, after that incident, is the one who became the manager of that institute, and all his interests became focused within the laboratory in its sciences. The opposite of Urahara Kisuke. It is true that his passion for science and discovering new things did not diminish, but the storylines that Kubo gave to Kisuke were much greater than the ones of Mayuri. First of all, Urahara Kisuke became in direct conflict with Aizen Sasuke, and there is no need to talk about who Aizen Sasuke is. And secondly, he had problems with the entire Goshi 13, so he was accused of treason. And thirdly, and this is the most important point, Urahara Kisuke linked with Ichigo, the protagonist of the story who was also the focus of Aizen Sasuke's attention. Therefore, I say that Urahara Kisuke, the major events in the story that he was preoccupied with, made him not really care about a struggle for who is the best. Therefore, in my personal opinion, this comparison is a comparison that Mayuri invented of himself, because all I see in Mayuri is that one of his biggest dreams is, I have to surpass Urahara Kisuke. While Urahara Kisuke, as I said, did not look at Mayuri from the same perspective that Mayuri looks at him. And I give you this paragraph from the novel, and I consider it one of the rare scenes where we see Urahara Kisuke speak seriously and reveals a little bit of his mysterious personality. In that scene, Hisagi had just returned to the Soul Society. Hisagi came up with the conclusion that probably Urahara Kisuke created the Hogyoku in order to rid Ryo of his suffering, and this was a noble goal, and he considered Urahara a true hero. Urahara told Yorichi that this is not the case, that relieving Ryo of his suffering was a secondary goal, but his main desire was to invent something new and open a new door. And frankly, I don't know what Urahara meant by the new door, but the important thing, he said he used Ryo as an excuse to unlock that door, and that in the end he's not different from Mayuri. It doesn't matter if he sacrifices a lot of things in order to satisfy his desire to search. Urahara's words here, which were between him and Yorichi, and it was in a moment of sincerity, shows you the different way Mayuri thinks about Urahara and Urahara thinking about Mayuri. Urahara's goal has never been to outdo anyone, as much as he wanted to open a new door, in the opposite of what Mayuri is. It is true that he's a scientist and loves science, but his passion for science was always associated with a nightmare named Urahara. And here I will quote a Moroccan example that says, خوك في الحرفة دوك. The literal translation means your brother in the same field is in truth your enemy. Of course, Urahara is not an enemy of Mayuri, but what I want to say is that Mayuri has always been and still sees Urahara as the summit he wants to reach. So as long as Mayuri has such a complex towards Urahara Kisuke, where did it start from? What we have for now are the chapters of the Pendulum Arc. In those chapters we saw the first meeting between Urahara and Mayuri. And here I have to clarify something. Urahara, before he was the captain of the 12th Division, he was the leader of a specific special unit in the Omitsukido, meaning that the main job of that unit was stopping people who were believed to be dangerous elements. In the anime they gave us an example for what Kisuke was doing in this operation, but in the manga there are no such scenes. Except that Urahara spoke about this matter. He said that one of his duties is to monitor Shinigami who are believed to be a source of danger to the Shinigami or the general security of Serity, like he was an FBI agent. That's why Urahara Kisuke was a multitasker. He was watching the cases he thought might pose a danger in the future, as well as guarding them even when they entered the Magus prison. That's why I say maybe Urahara Kisuke was the supervisor of the operation that ended up taking Mayuri to the prison. We don't know whether Mayuri was in the prison before Urahara was appointed there or not, because we simply don't know the age of both Urahara and Mayuri. But what appears to me is that Urahara Kisuke had a prior knowledge of Mayuri when he was out of prison. Otherwise, how would he know Mayuri's practical skills if he hadn't seen them with his own eyes? For this, my theory says that when Urahara was serving as the leader of that unit, Mayuri was out of prison and he was considered a dangerous element. And so one of Urahara's tasks was to monitor his movements and experiments, and when Mayuri exaggerated the matter, the order was issued to stop him and send him to the Magus prison. And this may explain why Urahara knows Mayuri in his skills. And even Mayuri knows Urahara. Of course, someone might say, how do you say that he's the one who sent him to the prison and he will get him out again? The answer to such question will be from the words of Urahara himself. Kisuke at that time was the leader of that unit, with order to arrest those kind of people. I mean, he was subject to orders, and these orders were mainly issued by Central Room 46. However, Urahara saw that this whole process of arresting these people who had such talents was a waste of time and energies. Those Shinigamis have good skills that could be used in the public interest. Therefore, when he became the captain of the 12th Division, he had more authority to make such decisions in light of the availability of people who were able to help him to do such things. I'm talking here about Yurichi, who was considered at that time the leader of the Shohin family and the second squad, as well as the Omitsukido, and this gave us a clear picture of the difference between Urahara and Mayuri. If Urahara had a phobia that someone would compete with him in the field of science, he would not have suggested to Mayuri to join him, because as I said, Urahara's angle of view is wider than such matters. However, Mayuri from the beginning shows signs of unknownness, with Urahara as a form, name, and cognitive values, which were evident in his actions towards Urahara. The first meeting between them will give you several signs of that. When Urahara came to Mayuri for the first time, he had become the captain of the 12th Division, a position that Mayuri would succeed him in later. Also, Urahara is responsible for getting Mayuri out of prison. In addition, the technical institute in which Mayuri works is basically an innovation of Urahara, as he is the one who set the rules of that project, and therefore these are things that Mayuri cannot erase. I mean, 100 years had passed after Urahara left the Soul Society, and no one was able to erase his name. We noticed the features that Ishin formed the first time when he heard his name, as well as Ikaku. And I think this thing was bothering Mayuri a lot. And the funny thing is that Kubo used these facts to belly in on Mayuri in this aspect. As soon as any person mentions the name of Urahara and Mayuri is present, his anger intensifies, and you might even hear the grinding of his teeth For example, in chapter 380, when Ichigo wanted to return to the real world with Urahara through the Garganta, as soon as Ichigo mentioned Urahara, Mayuri shouted, "Would you stop mentioning Urahara?" Even Urahara in that chapter used Urahara as a card of encouragement for Mayuri when she said, "I trust you, Mayuri. This experiment will succeed. If it fails, Urahara will not stop laughing." We even read in the novel The Death Saved the Strawberry, this chapter or this paragraph when Urahara Kisuke wanted to ensure that Rukia spread the news of Ichigo's help in restoring back his power with the rest of the vice captains. Urahara hacked the computers of the Technical Institute because he already knew their structure since he was the one who established it. And on the other hand, and this is what is related to our topic, when Urahara came to the Seirechi with the sword and stood before the Sotaichu Yamamoto, you can read this paragraph that describes Mayuri's feeling when he saw Kisuke in front of him. Imagine with me, everyone could hear the grinding of Mayuri's teeth. Because before that, Mayuri wanted to report to the Sotaichu Yamamoto the news that Rukia was sending to the vice captains, and he is the only one who wanted to do that. Some captains knew the plan and they kept it secret, like Urahara. Zaraki, he even wanted to help them, but Mayuri no, like if he wanted Urahara's scheme to fail. For this he originally didn't like the act of how Yamamoto accepted the matter of Urahara Kisuke. And we can see another example in chapter 518, when Urahara Kisuke hacked Kon and made a stream live to communicate with the Gotei 13 in Zero Squad. Notice the expression on Mayuri's face when he saw Urahara Kisuke. And by the way, these scenes are not found in the anime. Mayuri knew how to close the broadcast by pressing on Kon's eyes, but Urahara already knew that Mayuri would know this point. For that, Urahara Kisuke disabled that option, and this was a small indication to why Kisuke was rated as one of the 5 traits, because he has the skill that enables him to anticipate his opponent's moves. And some may say that Mayuri has surpassed Urahara Kisuke, and that Mayuri said when he was about to lose consciousness, he said, "I finally surpassed you, Urahara Kisuke." Again I say, this is a desire for superiority that exists only in Mayuri's mind. And if this really happened, we wouldn't have seen that complex still stuck with him even in Chapter of Hell, which is 12 years after the events of the final arc. When Ichigo saw the technical development that the Gotei 13 reached from phones and televisions, Renji told him that the credit for this goes to Urahara Kisuke and the 12th Division Department. And soon as Ichigo wanted to say, "Wow, Urahara is really," Mayuri pops up again to talk about Urahara, and Matsumoto also gets involved in this bullying party when she says he is a little upset that Urahara keeps developing new materials. For this, I think this complex that Mayuri has towards Urahara is the same as Soifun has. Both of them feel that Urahara robbed them of something. That's why you always find them, as soon as Urahara is mentioned, they got nervous. Soifun thinks Urahara stole from her Yurichi, and Mayuri believes that Urahara Kisuke is that mountain that should roll over its peak. And the funny thing is that Urahara never intended to create this hatred with them. For example, Urahara is not the one who forced Yurichi to go with him. Rather, with her own conviction, she went with him on that journey of the century and gave up her position as the head of the family Shohin, and from being the captain of the 2nd Division, she gave up all of this and decided to save Kisuke and Chisai and stay with them. And this is exactly what I see happening with Mayuri. He creating for himself a competition out of nothing towards Urahara Kisuke. That's why I personally have never seen that there is a conflict between them, since Kisuke's personality does not force him to enter into this conflict in the first place. Of course, this doesn't negate the fact that Mayuri is an excellent scientist because he was designed for such a role and his effectiveness appeared in the final arc. But Urahara Kisuke's role throughout the story was in another dimension, away from these comparisons being related to the most sensitive issues in the story. So guys, what do you think? Give me your opinion and see you in my next video.